is that in an effort to reach more people, I think this is very smart on Trump's part, Trump is showing up on alternative media. He realizes that linear media, legacy media, is limited. You can only do Fox News Channel so many times. I have clips from him talking to Mark Levin, right? Yeah. So I have those clips, but I think the Lex stuff is even better. And as I say, more to the point I was making, Trump realizes on some level that you can do Mark Levin all day, but you know who's watching Mark Levin? Not anybody who is open-minded. The people who are dug in. If you're looking for new customers, you're not going to find them at the Mark Levin show. So he can do his Mark Levin, he can do his Fox and Friends. That ain't, you're just playing to the people who are already going to vote for you. Now, it may motivate them to vote for you more, et cetera, but whatever. Lex might be a better play for him. Here's Lex Friedman with a little clip of Trump.
I don't know if you know this, but some people call you a fascist.
Yeah, they do. So I figure it's all right to call them a communist. Yeah, they call me a lot worse than I call them.
A lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
I believe you have to fight fire with fire.
Politics is a dirty game.
It is a dirty game. It's certainly true.
How do you win at that game?
They suffer from massive Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, and I don't know if it's curable from their standpoint.
I think we'd probably have a better world if everybody in Congress took some mushrooms, perhaps.
First of all, medical marijuana has been amazing. It's been, I've had friends and I've had others and doctors telling me that it's been absolutely amazing.
It's a really interesting, I'll give you 20 seconds on the podcast itself. It's basically Lex Friedman talking to people. It's like very low production, and it's just Lex. And it's these long, it reminds me of the podcast I used to do, the audio only podcast, where you just sit, you get in a studio, and there's just not a lot of production. Yeah. We have way more production that goes into our show because we're trying to cater to many interests, I mean, from a production standpoint. Mm-hmm. So, Tony, play a little bit more of it. We've kind of agreed as to what we were going to play, so go ahead. You can, just because we've started on this, here's a little bit more.
Successful in business, you've been successful in politics. What do you think is the difference between gaining success between the two different, disparate worlds?
Yeah, and they're different, very different. I have a lot of people that are in business that are successful, and they'd like to go over to politics. And then you realize they can't speak. They choke. It's hard to make a speech in front of that. Let's say you're talking about a big audience, but I get very big audiences. And, for many people, it's virtually impossible to get up and speak for an hour and a half and have nobody
and not
leave.
Mention sharks and...
it's not an easy thing to do. And it's an ability. But I have many people that are very, very successful in business, would love to do what I did, and yet they can't pull the trigger.
Stop right there. He's not wrong. I do make fun of Trump, and I seriously rotisserie Trump in many ways, where I think he deserves to be made fun of and be rotisseried. And I think he is, to call him problematic is to be polite in the extreme. That said, what he said that was true was twofold. One, it is hard to speak and communicate cleanly to large groups of people if that's what you need to do. I don't know that you need to do that anymore, but he's, basically riffing on that. But that's not the real point. The point he's really right on, and the dangerous point that he's correct on, is that people in business, extremely successful people in business, they do want to expand into politics. And why is that? It's not pure ego. It's because they want more control and power. They have business power and control, but they want political power and control to go with their business power and control. Well, Mark, what do you mean? Give me an example. Okay, I will. Elon Musk Elon Musk wants very much, and you hear talk of this now openly, to serve in a Trump administration. Now, when we say serve in a Trump administration, Elon Musk ain't putting on a coat and tie and moving to Washington. He is going to be the secretary of this, the advisor of that. He'll be in the constellation of people around Trump, and in so being, he will be able to influence policy that will very much affect his business. He's already an uber wealthy guy with great control of America because he has control of SpaceX, he has control of Starlink. These are things that the U.S. government needs. Same is true with Bezos.
Yeah.
So what you have there is a desire on his part to officially serve in an administration that then can serve his interests. That's what business people at the highest levels really want. They want regulation off their back. They want the government out of their business picture, and then they want to influence public policy to serve those masters. Kim, go ahead.
Since you brought up Elon Musk, can I just tell you something that apparently was said over the weekend? Ooh, my Coachella Valley iced tea is arriving. Isn't that nice?
All right.
He apparently shared some type of thing over the weekend on X that said women and men with low testosterone have no place in government. So he wants, I guess, he wants only powerful men that are rich to control everything. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, he's a, that's the toxic masculinity thing that's so popular now.
Yeah.
But it fits right into the J.D. Vance Trump playbook. But
Yeah.
the
High
point
status
is,
males. Isn't that
the point is
great?
Trump is right in that all of his business buddies who he's still in touch with, who he plays golf with and whatever, and I know a lot of the business community has turned their back on him and a lot of the business community has embraced him. Look at David Sachs in San Francisco, Chamath in San Francisco, and all those tech bros. What do you think they really want? They want, as we said before, they want low taxes and they want no regulation. They want, ultimately no regulation. I understand that they'll take incremental rollback of regulation. And so when they see somebody at the FTC who might actually break up big tech and is a threat to some of the growth of big tech, they run to Donald Trump and they pledge and indeed stump for him when it comes to money. So this is... play me one more drop before I get one more drop from the, we're kind of needle dropping it.
The country seems more divided than ever.
Yeah.
What can you do to help alleviate some of that division?
Well, you can get rid of these two people. They're terrible. They're terrible. You don't want to have them running this country. They're not equipped to run it. Joe,
I'm laughing because it's just so hateful. Like, yeah. Well, there's just, our discourse is full of the most toxic speech, the othering of everyone. Yeah, it's a country that's more divided than ever before. How would you approach it? Well, the first thing you should do is get rid of those disgusting people. He's right back at it. Okay, now I'll shut up. Go ahead, just play the whole clip.
It's a disaster, okay? And Kamala, I think she'll end up being worse than him. We'll see. I think a lot's now, the convention's over with, and I see I'm leading in just about all the polls now. They had their little honeymoon period, as they call it. And we'll see how that all goes. Who knows? So.
From my personal opinion, I think you are at your best when you're talking about a positive vision of the future versus criticizing the other side.
Yeah. I think you have to criticize, though. I think they're nasty. They came up with a story that I looked down and I called soldiers that died in World War I suckers and losers. Okay. Now, number one, who would say that? Number two, who would say it to military people? Nobody. It was a made-up story. It was just a made-up story. And they like to repeat it over again. They know it was made up. I have 26 witnesses that nothing was said. They don't want to hear about that. Like she lied on McDonald's. She said,
yeah. Okay, there you go. I mean, you can see how he just segues back into negative chatter. That's who he is. And, interviewer after interviewer says to him on Fox News and elsewhere, sir, you're at your best when you're expressing a positive vision for the future of America. And his response, almost to the person, is, yeah, well, I think you have to talk about the other side, though, and I think you have to talk about Kamala Harris and what a fraud she is, and how that she's a communist and a Marxist, and how Joe Biden has, been checked out for the last two. It's a remarkable thing. His people on the inside, Trump's people, say they've given up trying to change the narrative with him and trying to change the style with him and to try to change the strategy or tactic with him. They've given up on it. Now, and this is one of the things we can touch on with David K. Johnston, according to insiders, it's all about dirtying up Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
The idea somehow that, I get it, Trump is not likable. Well, Kamala Harris isn't going to be likable either when we get done with her. That is the express view of those working on the Trump campaign.
Like you said, probably because it is their only strategy. They know that's the only strategy they can, they make it into a strategy only because they know that's the way he is. That's what he's going to do, regardless of what they say.
And that's kind of what you have to do. I mean, you do it in sports, right? If you know you don't have a great passing game, then you figure out how to establish your run and pound the football down the field with the running game. Republicans have already started pummeling Harris with attack ads. The bulk of television spending by the campaign and their allied super PACs between August 23rd and August 29th, 57% were attack ads on Harris, according to data from the media tracking company Ad Impact. 21% were pro-Harris ads that drew a contrast with Trump. Another 14% were purely positive about Harris. This is on the Harris side, obviously, the data showed. Only 8% were anti-Trump attack ads. So, in other words, they're not really attacking Trump much on the Harris side. The Republican ads, again, 57% were attack ads on Harris, compared to only 8% from the Harris people that were attack ads on Trump. Here is what the Trump people say. This is a moment in the message arc of us seeking to define her. She's seeking to define herself. We, meaning the Trump people, have a defined candidate. Everyone knows everything about the person. There's a lot of new information about Kamala Harris that people just don't know. And if you think this race is going to be decided on likability, you're making a grave error, this person says, because neither one of them is going to be liked at the end of this race.
It's going to be an ugly one.
Yeah. Like when we get done with her, no one's going to like her either. That's what they are saying. So they have a candidate and the cake is baked on Donald Trump. They're saying we're still baking the cake that the American people are going to eat on Kamala Harris.
Isn't that interesting? Because she's the vice president. We've known her for a long time now. Why isn't the cake also baked on her?
It is true, even though that's the case, that the scrutiny with which you examine the vice president just isn't the same scrutiny that you apply when you're looking at a presidential candidate. So I think they're not wrong about what we don't know or what people don't know or people haven't focused on. I mean, the information's out there, but they haven't focused on about Kamala Harris. I think we in California, certainly in the Bay Area, are familiar with Kamala Harris on a level that most people in America just aren't familiar with her on, right? I mean, it's just that we've lived with her longer. But it is messaging, and so anybody can be dirtied up. Hey, John Kerry was a distinguished Vietnam vet. If anybody could have gotten out of Vietnam service, it would have been John Kerry. I mean, if anybody could have done what Trump did, which was get a doctor to write a series of deferment letters or exemption letters for him as a result of various physical infirmities, if anybody could have done that, It was John Kerry. Trump did it. A lot of rich kids did it. People with access did it. The John Fogerty song, Fortunate Son, is all about that, about people getting out of Vietnam service through their connections because of wealthy families, while the war is decided by those wealthy, that is, war policy. John Kerry, to my point, was dirtied up. He was, again, it's called the swift boat. He swift boated. It was called the swift boat strategy. And how they could successfully dirty up this legit Vietnam vet who could have gotten out of Vietnam service, as I say, how they could dirty him up so that by the end of the ramp up to the election, people looked at him in a different way. It's astounding to me. So anybody can be dirtied up. It is very effective, this negative advertising, and the GOP does it well. So let's see what happens.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.